Are you holding on to things longer than you should because you have guilt letting them go? That's a trap that many people fall into. So today I want to offer some encouragement with 13 common things that you can get rid of today, guilt-free. When I say that these are common things that most people have in their homes, it doesn't mean that everyone has them. But as I talk through each of these points, really ask yourself if they exist for you. And if so, ask yourself why you've been holding on to them. Okay, the first thing that you can declutter without guilt is the lesser used duplicate. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. There is an item in your home that is maybe getting a little bit worn out, maybe a towel or a pair of shoes. You realize that it's going to need to be replaced soon, and so you jump ahead and make a purchase. The new towel or new pair of shoes comes into your house all shiny and new, but then you hesitate because you're not quite ready to toss out the old items that were being replaced. What a lot of people are guilty of in that moment of hesitation is deciding to just hold on to both of these items, and then suddenly duplicates exist. And more often than not, the older item gets pushed into the back of a closet, the bottom of a storage container, and relatively quickly it's forgotten about. So I want to challenge you to really think about what duplicates may exist in your home and then get rid of the one that is used less often, because chances are you don't really need both of them, especially if one of them is just pushed aside or stored. Number 2 is leftover project materials. As a homeowner or even a renter to some degree, we have this desire to really make our spaces feel like our own and add those personal touches. And that usually involves the purchase of some type of product materials. Maybe that's fabric for curtains that you plan to sew for your living room or wood to build a deck. We use the materials, make what we set out to, and gain a huge sense of pride for our DIY efforts. But then, more often than not, there are bits of these products left over. Not enough to do anything major with, usually. Scraps of fabric, half a sheet of drywall, a few 2x4s. I know that we have been known to hold on to these bits, and I'm willing to guess that some of you have that same tendency. But if you are able to let them go, you will actually free up a lot of space. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just trash them because they can still be useful, but maybe consider offering them for free at the end of your driveway, because you never know. Somebody might be driving by and see that half a sheet of plywood and be thrilled to know that they don't have to go to the hardware store and purchase an entire full sheet, which they don't need. The third thing that you can declutter without guilt are any products that have expired. Food, medicine, even some toiletries or personal care products, they may actually make you sick if they are expired. So the only true guilt that you may possibly feel from letting these items go is really about the money that was spent on something that went unused. And you can actually use that as a good lesson learned. I like to tell people that part of why minimalism is so great is that it really reduces the inventory that any person needs to manage and makes it much easier to notice when things are about to go bad or you have too much of something and you need to start using it up. It also doesn't make you feel compelled to really stockpile a lot of things, and so you're pretty much always in control of the amount of product that you have. So as you're going through and decluttering perishable products, do your best to use up what you can now, if it's still usable. You might plan to do a fridge or a freezer clean out, maybe a pantry clean out where you make recipes using the items that are close to expiration, even if they're sometimes a little bit over expiration, but you know that they're still okay to consume. Go ahead and do that. Make a plan to use those things up. Number 4, items that were useful for a different season of life. Baby gear, medical equipment, sporting goods, hobby supplies. There are so many items that might fall into this category. When those purchases were made, surely the products were useful and maybe even necessary. Now though, likely they are collecting dust somewhere in your home. Instead of feeling guilty about getting rid of these things, really start to appreciate the season of life that you are moving into, and consider that by decluttering these items that you no longer use or need, you may actually be helping someone who is moving into the season that you just left, that maybe can't afford to purchase these products at full retail value, especially if you decide to donate them to a thrift store or sell them at a garage sale or Facebook Marketplace. I know plenty of new parents out there who would be thrilled, for example, to get the bassinet or newborn size clothing that you may have stored in your attic. You should declutter without guilt anything that makes you feel bad. That might sound a little bit silly, but it is more common than you may think for people to keep things that bring up bad memories. That might be an old letter that includes hurtful words, pictures that remind us of a traumatic experience, or even items that were inherited not because you wanted to bring them into your home, but because your family members made you feel like you had to. What about clothing that no longer fits because you're now a different size? Those have a very high potential of making us feel bad. For this category of items, it's helpful to look at it in this way. If you would not choose to bring them into your home, into your life as a constant reminder of something not so great, then why keep them around just because they're already there? Let them go, guilt-free. Number 6, collections that have gotten out of control. Okay, hear me out on this one. Getting rid of an entire collection that you love is obviously not what I'm talking about. This point has to do with collections that started out as a fun little thing to do, but have grown to the size that they are difficult to manage. At this point, they have become a major burden. If the fun of collecting a particular product or theme is over, don't feel guilty about paring down to just your absolute favorites. I actually think that that is a very healthy process because let's be honest, when you have so much stuff, it is overwhelming and everything kind of blends together, making it difficult even for the collector to appreciate the favorite pieces. A good tip for collections is to set a designated area or boundary for where they will be displayed. That might be a shelf, a curio, or even an entire corner of a room. When that area is full, it's time to make some choices. And when you frame it in this way, you are less likely to feel the guilt of letting go. Number 7, bulky items you don't have space for. Sometimes it isn't a lot of little things that are cluttering up our homes, but instead the large items that take up a lot of visual and physical space. The things that come to mind in this particular category are furniture pieces and exercise equipment. They may have fit in perfectly in a different home and then moved with you into a smaller space where they just don't work. A trap that some people can fall into is deciding to just keep those items, but then contract with a storage rental company. And this is justified with the thought process that if I move again, I can get those items out of storage and they will be useful again to me. But what's not really being taken into account is the amount of money that is spent during that time. And also, there's no guarantee that your style or even your season of life won't change while that time has passed. And so it's really best to just cut your losses right now, sell those items, and use the proceeds to buy some things that fit in and are useful right now. Number 8, broken stuff. There are 2 layers of guilt that we experience with things that have broken. One is the guilt from the actual breaking of the item, and 2, the guilt from not getting around to fixing it, either because of lack of time, resources, or skills. That's a whole lot of guilt, so these items potentially might fit into the category I talked about earlier, things that make you feel bad. The difference here is that it is unlikely these things will be useful to anyone else. We're talking about puzzles that are missing pieces, clothes with big rips or major stains. Just the other day in my house, we came across a deck of cards that was missing a few cards. It's not very useful to anyone anymore, so straight into the trash those went. Now, I understand that some things can be fixed, and we may be tempted to donate these items with the thought that someone else might want to take it on as a project. Surely that's better than having it end up at the landfill, right? Well, true, but please, 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 if you do donate something that is broken or missing pieces, add a note so that the person who is spending their hard-earned money knows about it, because there's nothing worse than ending up with a project that you hadn't anticipated and suddenly it's a burden on someone else. And also be aware that even after you're donating efforts, the person that's going through and sorting at the thrift store may decide to get rid of the item anyway if it has that note on there that there's something missing or broken on it, because some things truly are just trash. The ninth thing that you can declutter without guilt are unused gifts, also known as gifts that you were given but weren't necessarily useful to you or not your style. Don't feel like you need to hold on to them. It is rare that anyone would be looking around your house for the gift that they gave you. And if they do and are angry at you for not keeping something, honestly, that says more about them than it does you. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with regifting an item or offering them to friends or family members who you think might enjoy them, appreciate them more. The only thing that I would caution against is trying to sell and make money off of a gift. Not that you can't, but it may make your conscience feel even more guilty if you do. Number 10, paper manuals. I call these file cabinet fillers because, let's be honest, most people don't ever read or even look through them, yet we often feel compelled to keep them around as a reference in case something goes wrong. Good news though, in this computer age, we have access to so many manuals online through databases or manufacturer websites with just a quick search. If you are feeling really apprehensive about tossing them out, then I would recommend just checking online first to make sure that these manuals are available. And if they are, then write down the product name, the manufacturer, the serial number on a piece of paper or even in a small notebook, because one small notebook takes up far less space than 10, 20, maybe even 30 product manuals that you may have in your file cabinet right now. Cheap, easily replaceable items can be decluttered without guilt. You've maybe heard of the 20 rule of decluttering, asking yourself the questions, can I replace this item for $20 in 20 minutes or less? If the answers to both of those questions are yes, then the guilt involved with decluttering the thing should be close to zero. Again, this doesn't mean that you're being wasteful, but it does put the control back into your hands. If clutter is taking over your life, chances are it's not the high quality items that you're starting to resent. It's all of the many, many cheap things that were purchased to fill some sort of temporary gap that you're now just holding on to because you have them or just in case you might need them in the future. Don't get caught up in thinking that you should keep something just because it didn't cost a lot of money or doesn't take up a lot of space. If it's not serving a purpose, if it's not being appreciated right now, just let it go, especially so if it is easily replaceable. Number 12, extra packaging or wrapping supplies. On this list, this is maybe the most common thing of all that is likely to be found in the home. And I think that it's gotten even more common with the amount of online shopping that we do. When we receive a good-sized box, it can be tempting to keep it for future use, and maybe that's okay in some regards. I, for one, like to keep the larger Amazon boxes to fill with the things that I am going to declutter and I want to donate. The trouble comes when we save too many of these things. The same goes for gift bags that we may receive. They can most often be reused, and so we hold on to them as well, but how many is enough? I'd encourage you to go through the spot where you keep any extra boxes and bags and do some re-evaluating. The boxes, of course, can easily be recycled and the bags can be donated. And finally, the 13th thing that you can declutter without guilt are any items that you received as promotional freebies. I wonder how many t-shirts the average American family has received for free. In my opinion, they seem to be the most popular freebie, but there are other things too: keychains, sunglasses, pens, and guess what all of these items have in common? They are all used as promotion for someone else. The business or sponsor name is generally plastered all over them as a constant reminder, and every time you use them, you're basically free advertising for them. I guess it makes sense to offer free t-shirts, which basically can turn into walking billboards for months or maybe even years. There's nothing wrong with free products, especially if they are useful, but always keep in mind that they came into your life unsolicited, and remembering that should ease your mind and make it easier to say goodbye when it's time to declutter. So again, here is the complete list of 13 categories of items that you should be able to declutter guilt-free. I gave you my reasons why I don't think that you should hold on to guilt for these things, but I'd love to hear your suggestions as well. Leave me a comment down below which items are hardest for you to let go of. And as always, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you'll stop back again really soon.